Thanks, Bill.
Okay.
So it's 18:35. Please welcome to the March 6th, 2025 meeting of the Norwalk Shellfish Commission. And I see that a quorum is present. And has attendance been taken?
It has. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And moving right to the approval of the minutes from the February meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I see a single attendee in public comment. If that attendee would like to speak in public comment, please raise the hand electronically. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the treasurer's report. Bill, please, sir.
Sure. So the balance remains the same as last month. There's been no transactions. The current balance remains at $29,292.
Great. John, I believe, did you pay for your admission to the Shellfish meeting, the state gathering?
No, I did not. Bill took care of it.
Okay, wonderful. I just want to make
Yeah,
sure
that's still in process.
Thank you.
Once
Thank you for
that's
asking.
accounted for, I'll get that into the next expenditure report.
Okay, terrific, guys. Thanks a lot. Secretary's report, not much to say other than many of us attended the Manresa Island presentation last night, which was pretty detailed, included many scale models. They took over most of the first floor of Brian McMahon High School to do it. And I guess nothing to talk about yet, but the commission looks forward to receiving their application in due time and addressing it accordingly like we do everything else. Without stealing Mr. Stedman's fire, I just want to mention that the letter that was sent by myself and Chairman Dr. Pinto regarding the adjudicatory hearing for the HDD cable is still a live topic, and Jeff will report on that during his discussion tonight. So moving on to the committee reports and back to Bill for Department of Health, please.
Sure. The rainfall for February was 3.31 inches. Last year it was 2.29. Historically, it's 2.91 for the month of February. There were two closures, first on February 9th, but it was just Cook's Ground, rainfall in exceedance of 0.5 inches. The second closure was on February 16th for all areas due to rainfall which exceeded 1.60 inches of rain. There were two bypasses. The first was on February 14th, approximately 30 minutes. It was a sewer backup in which some of the effluent ran into a catch basin, but it was vacuumed up within about 30 minutes and nothing else was impacted as a result of that. The second one was on February 16th. It lasted about an hour and a half. It was due to a pump failure at the Westport pump station. And some Wheeler Creek was affected by some of the effluent there, but it was terminated after an hour and a half. And that was it for bypasses and closures and my report for the month.
Great. Thanks, Bill. We should be closed now. I mean, depending on the beach text or the shellfish text, we were over the 1.5 inches for both last night.
Yeah, they sent something out from aquaculture about that. Yeah, I think it was 1.63 is what it ended up at.
You got it. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly, sir. Wastewater treatment, no report. The Mayor's Water Quality Committee, no report. Any news on permits, Bill?
No, I will go back maybe at the end of this month and see where they're at. We'll have a report for April, if that's okay.
Please.
Okay, will do.
Police, Sergeant Bisegli, please, sir.
Hey guys, nothing to report on my end. We got the notification for the closure, and I'll get those flags changed out tomorrow morning. We got tied up with some stuff this afternoon, so I didn't get to it. Chiambro had a small workboat sink at their dock overnight last night, leaked about probably 2 to 3 gallons or so of gas into the harbor by the bridge. It was boomed off pretty much as soon as they found it, so no issues with that on our end. And That's really all I got for you. Water temp is right around like 36 or so.
Oh, great. And the warmer temperature should have evaporated that fuel today. So
Yeah,
that's,
pretty quickly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's good news. Thank you, Sergeant.
Yep.
And thanks for the temperature. Norwalk Harbor Management Commission, Chairman Kibbe, please, sir.
Chairman Bartush, exciting times for the Manresa meeting. I thought it was an interesting start to that, and look forward to that. Sort of being part of that and watching that develop over the next decade or so. Most of our effort with the Harbor Commission is doing the detailed preparation work for the transit moorings as well as the rental of the harbor moorings and getting the paperwork all in order for that. It's a little too early to give a report on what the numbers are on how many moorings are renewed. I expect it'll be about the same as last year. And we are adding more transit moorings this year up in the closer to the visitors dock. We'll just have to see how much space we have with the goings on the bridge continuing. But the feedback on those moorings for transit has been just fabulous, and people want more and like to come to the city and spend time here. So that's been a positive program. I attended a meeting of the Strategic Harbor Planning Committee or whatever, which was nothing more than a gathering, I think, of us to hear what the very vague outline is of that. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about the details of that. The Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission have taken delivery of a new drone, which is in Owen's care at this point, and that's everyone's enjoying the high res and the greater distance capabilities and having a good time learning how to function with that or how it functions. So that's my report. Any questions?
And for me, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Stedman, if you have anything to add, sir.
Well, there's a lot of things to talk about, and I know you have applications to review tonight, so I'll try to go through these quickly, but it's a number of matters that, in the last month that we've been involved with that are of common interest to both the Shellfish Commission and the Harbor Commission. I might mention, though, first that the grant that the Harbor Commission obtained approval for rebuilding the Veterans Park Marina, that's a $3.5 million grant. It hasn't been allocated, the funds haven't been allocated yet by the Bond Commission. We talked last month that the commission didn't meet in December, and now the Port Authority tells us that they're hoping that the Bond Commission will meet in April to allocate the funds. I had a chance to talk about this with the Public Works Director last night at the Manresa Island meeting to inform her. The meeting of the Shellfish Commissions in New Haven that Pete and Steve and I went to, so quite interesting. That they gave me a little bit of time to talk about matters that are of common interest to both Shellfish Commissions and Harbor Commissions. And there'll be, I don't know if you said this, Steve, but there'll be proceedings and the information that was presented at that meeting will be sent out to all of the participants. But there was one interesting discussion about new rules from the National Shellfish Sanitation Program having to do with the opening and closing of shellfish beds in areas where there are moorings and boats. And there was discussion about these new rules may require the harbor masters inspect vessels for the marine sanitation devices. And there was questions about the harbor master's authority to do that and how that would actually be done and what that means for the opening of and closing of shellfish beds. But there'll be more to talk about that later on. The Manresa Island, I'm going to just talk about this briefly. The meeting was very interesting last night. I guess I left, it was about 8:45 at the end. There was a chance to talk with a lot of people and understand what's being proposed. And they had a project timeline, which was interesting. But unlike other big projects, on that timeline, there was no time allocated for the regulatory approvals and the permits, which is a significant part of this. And when you listen to what was talked about last night, and there were people in the gymnasium afterwards at the different exhibits who mentioned this as well, there's a regulatory part of this, where this project, all with good objectives and most admirable objectives, the commission's Harbor and Shellfish have a responsibility to the public to review it in the public interest. And I think that we look forward to doing that. And also a number of questions, and we've heard from both the Soundkeeper and also the Bureau of Aquaculture, especially with regard to the remediation that needs to be done, because it's not going to just involve the upland. It's going to involve the in-water, most likely the subtidal and intertidal areas as well. And the remediation planning and the approvals of remedial action plans and the coastal site plans and the structures dredging and fill permits. Those are all complex approvals that all deserve careful review in the public interest. So anyway, we look forward to doing that. Also, I don't know if you just have a minute, if I could share my screen, Bill, because the other thing I wanted to bring up to
Go ahead, Jeff, when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if I can do this now. And if I can't do that, I'm ready to do that now. Oh, here it is. Let's see if I can do this here. The Norwalk River Watershed Initiative. I wanted to talk about this because I think this is one of the most significant things that we have to look forward to this year. 25 plus years ago, the Shellfish Commission and the Harbor Commission were actively involved in the development of the watershed-based plan. In fact, the idea of the plan and the reason that Norwalk was selected was in large part because of the shellfish resources and the harbor management plan. So back 25 plus years ago, it was a real community effort to work. We all worked together. We all contributed to the work on the plan. Just an example, this one newspaper article in the Norwalk Hour, there was much publicity about it. I don't know that I can find my other ones. Let's see. Now, well, I thought I could, but so I'm gonna not take your time and try to do this. I'll stop sharing. But the point I want to make is that the Watershed Initiative, which is a collaborative effort of the 7 towns, a couple years ago that fell out of operation, and we urged its reformation, which it has done. Now they've received a grant to update the watershed-based plan, and hired Ty and Bond, the engineering firm, to do that. But the work is going to involve updating the policies in the plan. It's essentially a tabletop exercise, and it's going to focus on the bacteria contamination. And my thought is we should be actively involved in this. I've shared our old documents with the watershed coordinator, who's based at the Southwest Conservation District. And again, she looks forward to our participation. One thing that we did, and I shared this with her, and I said we were going to update this. We did a very good presentation in 2019 to the DEEP at a DEP conference on the water quality initiatives in Norwalk Harbor that are supported and followed or trying to be achieved by the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission. So I think we can update that now as right at the basis of this watershed-based planning effort. So there'll be more to talk about, Steve, but one thing that I think we could do is work together to identify the priority water quality projects or initiatives that we would want to pursue in 2025. And in that matter, we also had a discussion at the Watershed Initiative of the status of the DOT's project to improve the Merritt Parkway Route 7 interchange, which is a big project. And I know the Soundkeeper is also looking at that with the anticipation and expectation that based on what we were able to accomplish with the Yankee Doodle Bridge, that work will include measures to avoid and greatly reduce the roadway runoff into the Norwalk River. So I think that's also should be one of the priorities we put in this updated presentation. And I think when I've been asking about the status of that, we haven't gotten an answer, but the Soundkeeper is also pursuing, trying to get an update on the status of that. So that will be something to work on. And then the last thing I wanted to mention tonight is the response from DEEP in January to our letter expressing concern about the way the public hearing was operated on the Eversource project. It was a very interesting letter. I don't know that there's anything we can do about it, but one of the comments, I think we had five concerns or questions. So if you bear with me, I'll go through these. The first one was we were concerned about the inadequacy of the presentation by Eversource during the public hearing. When the presentation consisted really not much of anything, no maps, no drawing, just they're going to drill the cable under the harbor. We expressed concern that wasn't a better requirement, or wasn't a requirement for a better presentation. DEEP's answer was that the hearing officer in DEEP doesn't review the presentations before the public hearing, and if we had questions, we should have asked them during the hearing about it. So I think you can judge that answer for what it is. We also expressed concern that the documents in the hearing weren't put in a common place on a DEP website where we could have access to all the hearing documents. DEEP agreed that it would have been helpful to have them on a website, but we also could have just asked the DEP staff to provide them. Third comment we had to do with the appearance of the review and the appearance of the lack of independence of the hearing process. When you have the attorney for Eversource being a former DEEP attorney, and you get into this matter of regulatory capture and so forth. But DEEP's simple answer was that the hearing complies with all the requirements of the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act. There's two more. The other was we asked why DEEP wouldn't consult with outside experts on matters such as this, with utility construction, such as we did with perhaps the foremost expert in the country. DEEP's response was that their staff is experts. And if we wanted to introduce expert testimony, we should have applied to be interveners in the process. And then we could have introduced our own experts. The other one, though, the last one was interesting, is you remember DEEP stated in its approval of everything that it determined that the proposed project was consistent with the Norwalk Harbor Management Plan. And we asked them under what authority did they do that? And they referenced the letter that the Harbor Commission wrote in July of 2023, saying that if the DEEP permit did not include a condition that would make Eversource responsible for the future cost overruns anticipated at the visitor's dock for repairs of the visitor's dock, then the Harbor Commission would find the proposal inconsistent with the Harbor Management Plan. DEEP pointed out that prior to that, in February of that year, the city had made an agreement with Eversource, whereby Eversource agreed to provide certain assistance to the city, and therefore DEEP ruled that the project was already considered consistent with the Harbor Management Plan, regardless of what the Harbor Commission's finding might be. So that's the last point I'd like to make. I don't know that there's any remedy to this, but it's also interesting that there's a proposed bill, and I don't know what the status of it is, having to do with public hearing processes in Connecticut in the future. And that bill is a governor's bill, and it would change the public hearing process for the expressed purpose of making the process more predictable. And as I understand it, and others do, what the change would be is that when a group petitions for a public hearing, it wouldn't be normally an adjudicated hearing, it would be a public informational hearing, which makes less burden on the applicant to have an attorney and so forth. I'd be curious to see how that proceeds, but it just seems like it's another example of the environmental agency giving increased weight to development in the coastal area rather than the protection of the environment and the consideration of public input. So thanks, Steve. Sorry to go on, but there's a lot of things that we can work on together, and I think a priority is the watershed-based plan update. I also provided to the coordinator the excerpts of the water quality policies from the harbor management plan and also the excerpts of the shellfish management provisions, saying that those should be the consultant hired should start off with those with the understanding of what those provisions are. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. An always great report. And with respect to the watershed management, I'm wondering if it would be wise for us to contact His Honor to see if he would be interested in reinvigorating the Mayor's Water Quality Committee as it relates to this, especially because with his recent announcement, we know that there will be a new administration, presumably one that will be tied up with a lot of things when they take office. So maybe it might be a smoother time to ask for this now.
Steve, it's interesting, and I know I'm talking too much here, but the presentation that we did at the DEP conference 5 years ago, one of the priorities then was to reestablish the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative. We were able to accomplish that, and I think it's reasonable to say one of the priorities this year would be, if everybody agrees, to reestablish the Mayor's Water Quality Committee. And I think that's what we should proceed to do or try to do.
I agree with that. So we can get a message out to His Honor in that regard. I agree, Jeff. Thank you. That ends the committee reports. A motion to accept them as presented, please.
Motion to accept them?
Thank you, Nick.
Seconded.
And a second by Commissioner Pagler. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. That's unanimous. And we can move on to old business. And Mr. Hiltz has two, so we'll knock those out first and then head on to the one being represented by Mr. Bajek. And in no particular order, John, 46 Shore Haven Road, thank you for access to the site. It seems quite straightforward as you presented last month. I'm just wondering if you have anything else to add.
Nothing's changed, Steve. Thank you for going out there today. I appreciate you making the effort. No, just standing by and waiting for your comments.
You got it. I was there with Pete. Pete offered his comments. Commissioner Pagler's here. John, did you want to say anything specific, or other commissioners as well?
No, I'm good.
Great. So I would suggest perhaps a motion such that the commission moves forward just with its standard language. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Sorry, Steve.
No, thank you, John. And a second?
I'll second
Second.
him.
And who was that?
That's Jordan, sorry.
Thank you, Jordan. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. So that's unanimous. And John will get that out to you, and good luck with that project.
Thank you.
138 Water Street, if you'd like to proceed there.
Okay, basically I showed as you're aware, the adjacent property 132 is reconfiguring their docks. And as a result, I showed has taken the initiative to apply for the permitting to basically do the same thing in order to, have basically an equivalent amount of berthing, but, a couple items that we're obviously attending to is, relocating the farthest waterward float away from the channel. That farthest float will be for transient use only, as noted on the plans. No permanent burden there, obviously. The club still has an agreement with 132 for leasing slips at that property. That was a question asked by the DEP as to whether or not that's still in effect, and it's on a year-to-year basis. So that basically gets renewed annually, so that they have adequate space for most of the club members, but they still do need within their own footprint there as many slips as they can get. The plan that you see there is basically a modification of the plan the club initially offered to me that they were interested in pursuing. Put it, pen to paper there and realized that it wasn't going to setback from the channel line, obviously. So we, played around with it a little bit, arrived at the same number of slips that they had asked for originally, and then basically got it so that it is what you see right now. The only thing I can say, that I was unable to do, and I don't think it's a big issue. I'm sure the Harbor Management Commission will talk to me about it, but the 9-foot setback of the corner of the transient float, ideally that should be 10 feet.
Okay. Will there be a new document in that regard?
No, I'm going to, basically point, we haven't discussed this at the Harbor Management Commission yet. So that being the case, I'm hoping that they see fit to allow for that simply because, again, it's a transient dock. And, the overall setback from the channel has been greatly improved, as you can see between existing and proposed.
Yeah, it looks like there's no bulkhead changes and especially no riprap underneath the club.
No, nothing's going on here. It's really just floating dock and pilings.
And,
The ramp will be realigned from the pier.
And for the pen immediately under the club's front porch, if you will, looks like there'll be some collision avoidance with this new design. So I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
The Shellfish Commission's all about lessening collision possibilities, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Hiltz? Any motions for the 138 Water Street, the Ishota dock redesign?
I move that we approve the plans.
Second the motion.
And these are with standard language, sirs?
Sorry, I have a kid talking in the background. Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Steve, do you have any comment there?
No, I'm good. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so that's unanimous. Thanks, John, for
Thank you
all
all.
your
And again, thanks for going out there today. I really appreciate it.
you're welcome. Good luck with the project.
All right. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too, sir. Moving on to 26 Shorefront Park. We have a few people here tonight representing the interests there. And first and foremost, I'd like to give Mr. Bajek the floor in this regard. Jim, if you could just update us perhaps on any changes since I believe Mr. Casey presented to us back in February.
Sure. I assume that everybody's got a copy of the plan that I submitted to the Shellfish Commission recently. Basically, we've been, this is an ongoing application with DEEP. As you know, it originally started as a dredging proposal, and we've since, figured that our chance of getting that permitted was very unlikely. So we met with DEEP on site and took a look at other non-dredging options and came up with the proposal to extend one of the existing finger floats 20 feet further to the north. After we submitted that proposal to DEEP and they had a chance to further evaluate things, they came back to us and said, well, we like the idea, but you're going to need to compensate for that additional 60 square feet of additional float. So they asked if we could get back to them and let them know, what part of the dock we felt like we could remove as compensation. So, we conferred with the owner and everything and came up with a plan to remove a 2-foot by 30-foot section of the main float. We submitted that to DEEP and they felt that was a good plan and that they would move the application forward. But they asked for consultation sheets to be revisited by the Shellfish Commission and Harbor Commission. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So what we have now is this redesign minus that square footage. That was not what we had last month, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else to add?
The only other thing is with this piece of the main float being removed, we're going to have to shift a couple of the float anchor piles along with that. And we've got that noted on the plan.
Okay. And okay.
Do we have
Anything
any
else?
feedback from the boat club that's nearby there that this potentially encroaches on?
I had a conversation with Glenn Pacino and I guess the club's attorney, John Bovey. And, we went over, they're concerned about, us getting closer to their docks. And I pointed out that, there's still going to be 56 feet between our docks for access. And we're not encroaching into their riparian or littoral rights area. We're actually not even encroaching into the city's littoral or riparian rights area that's at the end of North Street. So we just kind of left things at that as that. I haven't heard back from them, and I did tell them that if anything changed, we would, get back to them. But this is our proposal.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. So Chairman Pershino and Commodore Mount are in attendance tonight. So I would like to give either one of you or both the floor with respect to your commentary. And to speak, you would need to unmute. Thank you, Commodore Mount. Please proceed.
Since Glenn is closest to this and he's been our Marina chairman for a long time, I'd like to let Glenn take the lead.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us. Hello, Jim, and the commission. I just want to read through the email that I sent out because, Jim, we had a conversation. I just didn't hear back from you. I don't know if there was a design change that you were speaking of. I didn't see anything. I was going by the original one that we reviewed with Bovey, John Bovey. And so my concerns, I'll just read through an email that was sent to the commission here. I did note that you reached out to us, and we had several concerns regarding the proposed expansion. The reason for your expansion, as stated, was the neighbor for larger boats and also utilizing some of the fairway and the deeper water for navigation into your slips, into the neighboring slips. Over the past few years, South Norfolk Boat Club's obtained the necessary permits and approvals to dredge our marina. We're bearing the full financial responsibility for this work. Additionally, we currently moor 24-foot boats on the south side of the marina that kind of abuts that property there we're talking about, and are concerned about the potential impact of larger vessels being stored at the neighboring dock. To mitigate these concerns, we requested that the proposed expansion be shortened by 4 feet towards the neighbor's property to ensure sufficient fairway space for navigating the 24-foot vessels in and out of our slips, while also maintaining clear passage for the boats entering our marina. Furthermore, the South Norfolk Boat Club had been considering the possibility of extending some of our finger floats on the south side to improve dockage for the 24-foot vessels, and the proposed expansion would limit our abilities to pursue this option. So that was our concerns, and I know, Jim, we reached out to you. We didn't hear back on any flexibility there, and that's kind of where we stood with that. For that, because we're almost dredging to that riparian line there right now, and we're giving you the red carpet to come over into our space, but we're looking for some flexibility so we can both enjoy what the harbor has in the waters out there. So that's my comments on that.
Thank you, Mr. Pershino. Any comment in rebuttal or reply, Mr. Bajek, or anyone else?
Well, you know, we're proposing something that we feel is within our rights to propose. You know, there will be 56 feet between our respective dock areas. If the boat club, you know, proposes and gets authorization to extend their finger floats another 4 feet, they're still going to have 52 feet to maneuver their 24-foot boats in. You know, if you look at their docks that go along the bulkhead, they've only got 25 feet of clearance to get those boats out of there. So 25 feet versus 56. I mean, you know, there's still plenty of room if we have our extension for them to safely navigate in and out of their docks. So that's our response.
Thank you, Jim. So with respect to the 4-foot shortening, that's not something that you could agree to tonight, correct?
That's correct. I mean, our client feels, you know, they have a right to, not a right, but, you know, there's within the realm of permitting constraints and everything, they feel that, you know, they need as much water as they can get for their boat. And right now their boat is only 24 feet long. They will probably get a larger boat if you know, once they get this extension. But if they do get a larger boat, we're only talking maybe a 33-foot boat or so. It's not going to be sticking out further than what the dock, you know, than the end of the finger float extension. So it's not like there's going to be a humongous boat there that's going to be sticking into the common fairway. So, yeah, my response is that, you know, our client does not want to, you know, shorten the proposed finger float extension by 4 feet.
Thanks, Jim. So I can't envision the current proposal, but the one that we saw last month had the stern of an approximately 35-foot boat right to the end of the finger slip. And as we all know, those of us who pay for slips pay for length overall, which is counted many different ways. But certainly the extension of outboard motors or drives would also lengthen that vessel from a practical standpoint, especially where there would be skegs or props at the business end there facing the club. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's a somewhat of an impasse here, and I'll defer to the commission, but my humble opinion is that this is difficult for us to grant an approval on with a substantial complaint from the neighbor. And that being said, I would say that our dog in this hunt is not as big as the Harbor Management Commission's, such that I think it would be wise for us to not defer, but have a couple of weeks go by and see where this application is then. If it is as is, that's fine. But Harbor to discuss it, and then we could return to that in April. Well, April. Commissioner Kibbe, do you have any objection to doing it in that way?
No, I think that makes good sense. I personally, I'm on that detail with the Harbor Commission. I would have to recuse myself because I know the people with the new dock or the bigger dock from their kids growing up with my kids and so forth. So,
understood. Yep, no problem, Ellen.
No problem. No.
Thank you for that.
I've got a question.
Please.
To the Shellfish Commission. You know, what impacts to shellfish would this dock extension provide? I think what we're proposing to eliminate that 2-foot by 30-foot section off of the main float probably does more good to the shellfish in this area than the extension that we're proposing. So, you know, I would think that the Shellfish Commission in general should be looking at this in a positive view. The fact that a neighbor might not like the idea, what's that got to do with shellfish?
Yeah, and that's my point exactly, Jim, that I think that this should be deferred for some time such that Harbor could look on it. And as our sister commission, perhaps we could follow the debate from there. That being said, I mean, I would remind the applicant that there were significant notices of violation at this site. And that is not far from the Shellfish Commission's mind in terms of what's happened there in the past. So I just think it's wise for us just to pass the buck, if you will, for now, and that we could rejoin this in April.
I agree with that, Steve. So just for the record, you're not alone on that, on those points.
Thank you. Any comments, Nick or Jordan, in this regard?
No, I agree with you.
I would like to see the opinion of some other folks to opine on this before coming to a final.
Okay, so, I mean, that's basically it, Jim. So we'll reconvene with you with another old business section in April. I think I'll be around, or I'll appoint a person as substitute to attend Harbor so that we see the presentation there in person. But thanks as always, and we'll see you next month.
Okay, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Seeing no more old business, rather, I don't see any new business on the agenda. Before adjournment, does anyone have something to say before we cut out? All righty. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner. And a second by Nick, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you to staff and moderator, and we'll see you all next month.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you, guys.
everyone.
Take care, everyone. Have a good night.